Hey, this one will sound better. Yes. Hey. All right. First item will be to approve the agenda. Do we need a motion for that? Okay, okay. A call to order. Regular meeting of the Planning Commission, April 9th, 2026, 6 p.m.
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Blaney,
Present.
Commissioner Arcea,
Present.
and Chair.
Present. Okay, we'll move on to approve agenda. Do we need a motion on that? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
We'll make a motion to approve the last agenda. Showing motion.
I will second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. No presentations or informational reports. So then we'll move on to public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience. Do we take public comment via Zoom or no?
No.
Okay. So seeing no one, we'll move on from public comment to regular calendar. Item 1 is approval of the Planning Commission minutes from the last Planning Commission, which was meeting, which was on 2/12/2026. Any changes to that proposed, or can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes. Last meeting on February 12th, 2026.
Have a motion. Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, aye. Motion passes. All right, then,
I will abstain because I was not present, so.
yeah. Okay, make note of that. Okay, item 2 is presentation of the housing element progress report, and this is a public hearing. Okay, so we will open the public hearing. And we'll start off with a presentation by Community Development Director Holly Owen.
Good evening, planning commissioners and members of the public who may be listening to us, and city staff. Holly Owen, Community Development Director for the city. We are here tonight to review a task that we've been required to do, and as every other jurisdiction in the state does, and that is to submit a progress report for our housing element to the state. They have a number of programs and policies that are in our housing element. Housing element, again, just for reminder, is an 8-year policy document. It provides a plan for accommodating future housing needs, and it sets goals, policies, and programs to hopefully help to meet those needs. It is the progress report is meant to track progress towards the programs that are outlined in the housing element. We have 32 of them, and some of them are multi-sectional. The copy of the progress report is in your staff report, and it is a bit time consuming. We had some assistance that was given to us by Fresno Council of Governments consultants that help us available to every city who raised their hand for it, and they took us through all the policies. The challenge for us, I guess, is that we had a bit of a delay in our housing element adoption. We had some considerations that we made and some recommendations back to the state, to housing and community development. There was a lot of back and forth, and that finally got resolved at the late last year. So we're a little slow in getting off the mark on some of these programs. Some of them are cyclical in nature. They happen once a year. They're meetings that we are required to have once a year, for instance, with nonprofits. There are materials that we are required to have available at the counter in Spanish as well as English. There are meetings that we are supposed to have on a regular basis with the county of Fresno and other jurisdictions to keep track of some of those countywide programs. And so these all have different time frames. And you can see in the document that has been attached here that there are a number of items that are continued throughout the 8-year cycle. So my job is to kind of keep track of these, keep it on our radar, come to you or council for any recommendations or assistance that I might need to that we may need to keep ourselves compliant with our housing element, not let it get too far down the road before we start acting on some of these requirements, and just generally keep you up to date in terms of this progress report. The last column says not publicly available for a number of the documents. That was a document column. That didn't mean that we didn't have them. It just meant that there was a bit of a challenge in trying to upload documents to the state mandated matrix. They didn't accept PDFs, for instance. So we have backup information. It just wasn't, quote, publicly available. So that was the sort of the standard answer for that. The Planning Commission is a recommending body for actions forwarded to council, as you know. So we're recommending that you adopt the resolution recommending to the city council the acceptance of this report. And then we're in the process of submitting it to HCD anyway. They've accepted it. This is just the next step, is that, it's gone through the process and a public hearing, so anybody can ask questions if that's appropriate. So that concludes this part of this meeting. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Commission discussion is next. Any questions or for staff or comments on the results? I'll just note it's the annual process, so it's part of the requirements for the city, and the goals are goals and not necessarily things that have to be accomplished or can be accomplished, because the city doesn't have control over all the aspects of that. So I just make one note, only see that of the units added over this period, it was all above moderate, right? Just making sure I read this report.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And there was also a one ADU, accessory
ADU.
dwelling unit, that was approved last year. So our we consider every ADU that's submitted to us, but some of that's just timing and money. It costs a fair amount of money to construct a small single family residential.
Sure.
So.
Maybe on that particular question of ADU, I know, does the city provide pre-approved ADU plans?
We do indeed. They are on our website. They were plans that were done by an architect. So ideally, we followed the expectations that those be made available, and then that helps the predictability and the streamlining for people who are interested in taking advantage of that.
Yeah, that's great. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Any public comment? No public here, so I'll close the public comment. Move to continue discussion by the commission. Okay. And I'm going to close the public hearing. So the action would be adopt resolution number 2026-02, recommending that the city council adopt a resolution to accept the prepared 2025 housing element progress report and to forward this progress report to the Housing and Community Development Department with the state. Can I get a motion for that?
So move.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do you need a roll call on this or just, all in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. All right, moving on to item 3, objective standards, and we have another presentation from Polly.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring up, if you could, yes, thank you. So I got a new clicker here, so hopefully let's see if this actually forward. Yes, there we go. Holly Owen, Community Development Director, introducing at least the concept anyway, of objective design standards. And for those of you who were here last October, you may remember this PowerPoint. I'm not going to dwell on something that I already presented previously, but there are a couple of new members here, and I just wanted to run quickly through this PowerPoint so you may get a larger understanding of of the purpose of these objective standards, what that actually means, how we create them, and where we go from here. Let's see if I can get this to go here. Nope, it's not doing it. Sorry, folks, there we go. That's good enough. Are you gonna have to do it now? Sorry. When we look at this concept, one of the things we need to consider is that we are increasingly required to permit applications for housing, especially multifamily, especially affordable housing. The reality is we've not really had a lot of that in Kingsburg, and really the Central Valley has not had a lot of multifamily affordable housing proposed. We have single family residential development for the most part here. That just reflects, I think, people's desire for what they want to live in as families. Some of that I think is just historical for what the development community looks like. But the reality is when the state has passed a number of laws, they have asked us to approve, really without by right, some multifamily affordable housing. So what can we do to make sure that we get the kind of product that we value, that will stand the test of time, and that will allow us to get sort of the number of amenities that we would like to see in a good, well-designed project. So part of this is just to continue to hang on to whatever local control we might have of that product. Part of this is that our housing element program, number 22, that the document that you just approved, requires us to have objective standards. It's increasingly, as I said, required to have a streamlining by right multi-unit housing. So that is our opportunity to create the product that we are used to seeing, that will age well, will serve that community, and then hopefully will fit in to the rest of the city in a respectful way. So thank you. So again, this program 22 that was part of the 31 that you just approved says that we will develop objective design guidelines and revise existing standards to remove subjective standards. And so we can get into a discussion about what objective and subjective is. Some of that's probably fairly fairly obvious, but that is, objective is something that is measurable, and it is not, not in the eye of the beholder. It is actually, something that could be referred to in a document, and then everybody agrees on at the beginning. So, why is this? Why is this even coming about? Well, when you look at all these bills, there's a lot that's prohibited. We cannot deny projects if they meet the zoning and if they meet objective standards for low or very low or even moderate income housing. We can't down zone. That means if something's zoned for a certain number of units, we can't, allow for less units than what the minimum is there. So this objective standards will apply to a project like that too. And sometimes like for Senate Bill 35, for below market rate housing, only objective standards can be applied if it meets the zoning. It's basically a streamlining. So it's a by right. So that puts us in a situation where, having objective standards is a safeguard for us and for every city, really. So we are allowed to do that. They can be quite detailed, as you will see soon, but it makes it verifiable. It makes it easier for someone like the building official to come in and assess whether or not these have been met. And it's knowable to all the parties too. So it is the only basis that a local agency may use to deny or reduce the density of certain eligible products if those objective standards are not met. So when we talk about, again, what's the difference? What's a standard versus a guideline? A guideline uses language like it should have this or it may have that. You want to use stronger and more definitive language like shall, must, or required. A measurable distance maybe might be required for a setback, and it's enforceable as a regulation. So here you can see some examples of what design guidelines might be versus design standards. We've had guidelines in the past, other cities have too, but standards kind of raises the bar a little bit in terms of what is required. And so there's really no disagreement on the developer side or on the staff side. Ideally, you could have any staff member, in my job and be able to continue to be consistently applying some standard for that particular type of housing. It doesn't have to be quantifiable or numeric. There's different ways it can be a scorecards, it can be a benchmark, it can be a ratio. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, it can be list too. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a numeric application. So when you look at applicability of the multifamily objective design standards, you can have it be for commercial mixed use development as well as multifamily residential. We also can put the design standards for ADUs. They can get pretty detailed if we want, but we can have that discussion a little farther down the road. I think at this point we're looking to put in place a multifamily just initially, and then we can move on to some ADUs with potentially the next meeting that we have. So. So there are some waivers that can be applied with the state density bonus law. That doesn't really a bonus law. The density bonus law really applies only to to affordable housing. So if we cross that bridge and somebody comes in with a project, there can be some waivers of those objective standards, depending on what, what they ask for, and they have to fill out a particular request, and then we have to, figure out whether or not their project, is, applicable, to that waiver. So, that's something that can be done with density bonus law. Again, we haven't had any projects in the city that I know of that have actually applied for density bonus law. We've had a couple of the senior projects have come in, but they've not asked for any special waivers when they come in. So, the one thing to keep in mind, I think, that to stay the same is that we have zoning regulations and we have a discretionary review process in our zoning ordinance. We have the form-based code. So when it is just a discretionary project and not a by right multifamily project, we still have the ability to apply the form-based code design standards. We also what will stay the same with discretionary projects would be permission to from the growth management ordinance for allocations. So that's unique to Kingsburg. That will continue. We won't, that won't change. That would not apply with an affordable housing project is my guess. We haven't come up to the line where we actually have to make a decision on that, but that would be my understanding on it. So again, we want to just look at this tonight at this point with submittal that we've had, giving us a draft of what we have for objective design standards. These are some of the design outcomes, ideally, that you would want to avoid. And I mean, number 7 is all in the eye of the beholder, right? Ugly. But you want to avoid some of the designs that we've seen here, not to cast stones, but and some of these some designs are fashionable. That something that's happened 20, 30 years ago may not be considered all that attractive at this point too. So the design topics that we want to address are also in the draft objective design standards. We will again open that up and get to that, but these are some of the images of some of the opportunities and outcomes that we could see with good design, especially for multifamily. And we also have some examples in Kingsburg now of good design, and we want to continue to encourage that whenever we can. So, in your packet, you also have this document that says a purpose on the top here. This was a draft that was prepared for us by Fresno Council of Governments. They were offering anybody some drafts for objective design standards. This was frankly, when I got it, it was a little more detailed than I had expected, but upon reviewing it, I'm grateful that they went to this in as much detail as they did. And they, in this document, they talk about why they're doing this with the purpose of it. And there's a big list of definitions, which I think is useful because I'm not a trained architect, and some of the language that is involved in what might be required needs a little translation. I think that you can see that This is a document that could be used by staff, but also by developers. And anybody who's trained to design a multifamily unit, for instance, would find this understandable. So I will say that the purpose of this, I want you to keep in mind that there are some areas now from our housing element that have been designated as potential sites for multifamily, and these are areas that we haven't necessarily considered available for housing. Some of that is the highway commercial area. There are some sites that were identified for a higher density affordable housing. Will that ever happen? There's no telling. That's all. It's a market-driven answer to that question. But that said, if a project like that came in and they had a desire to put up a multifamily in a highway commercial area, we would have something like this document to require them to not only create a decent looking product that would fit in with the use and with the corresponding neighborhood, but also add some amenities where applicable. You can see when we get to the implementation section, we have a choice here. We could basically take this document as is and say, this is our standalone document. Or if the feeling, planning commission, is that there's just a little too much here and we want to give people a choice of materials or something like that, we could parse through this a bit and say, okay, pick 2 or 3 of these. Staff's recommendation is that what is contained in this document seems like that it would create the product it would create the flexibility for staff, but also the product that we would want to see in a multifamily affordable housing project too. Keep in mind too that this is really for by right use, and that discretionary would include much of this, but then whatever else we might want to see in a discretionary project. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when you got to colors and materials, 136, just down from there, Carol, little ways. Yeah, there you go. I put in ADUs here for the number 2 because I want you to be aware that there is that even in multifamily now, according to the state, they have the right to put several ADUs on a parcel that also has a multifamily project. Now, think of that what you may. We wanted to make sure that if there were recommendations that we could glean from this, we wanted to ensure that an ADU or 2 that was put on a multifamily project met some minimum design standards that would be required for any other accessory structure. That is, they would have to basically match the primary building in terms of material and color. Myself, that ensures that we avoid the whole sort of tough shed look, maybe, of a couple of ADUs that were put down there, and they would have the right to do that according to the state, is to put ADUs on a site like that. But let's make sure if they do that they at least match, or they're compatible with the primary structure. So that's an insertion that I think is, it's what we want to see going forward in case there's that possibility There isn't one pending, but you just never know at this point. The section 139 talks about landscapes. There's some interesting landscape elements that are proposed for multifamily. I think a lot of those would be things that Kingsburg would like to see in projects. Decorative pavement, seating opportunities. I consider these landscape features, but also amenities, I guess, for multifamily projects. And so I would recommend that remain. The other items in here are useful and things that we would require anyway, like certain trash enclosures and mailboxes that would match the corresponding multifamily project too. So there are a couple of architectural styles that they've called out. Those were choices that staff decided we wanted to see in terms of several other common styles that people tend to want to use when they come into either to Kingsburg or to other cities. We've seen some modern commercial buildings, for instance, now. I wouldn't be surprised if we would see a multifamily if one came in that looked more modern and less Swedish or Spanish Mediterranean. But this gives us some guidelines as to, well, some standards to apply, let's say, for those particular styles. That's concludes really what it was offered to us as part of this work product. I think it's something that will stand alone. Some cities have incorporated them into their municipal code. Some cities have had it as a document that still, has the authority but that sits alongside the municipal code, and it's just a little easier to modify it if it's a standalone document. It's a little easier to update it too. So that is should there be a consensus here? We take a recommendation as to whether or not you want to see changes to this. We want to discuss it more, or for the next meeting perhaps, or if you are satisfied with it, we can move it on to council for their review and adoption. The consequence of waiting, however, is sort of rolling the dice a little bit. If we have something in place, at least we say, well, here it is. If we wait too long, we don't want to be the first example of a city where a project comes in, and the economics of building may change for everybody, and we want to make sure that we're prepared to keep the standards that we expect in construction, be it commercial or especially multifamily residential, where we may or may not have a choice if a low income housing project is proposed. We want to make sure that it's as useful and as attractive as we expect it to be. So. I know that's been a lot. I'm here to help you discuss this, and this concludes at this point my staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Any questions? I have some comments, but I'll save them.
I have a question. The standards are good. I mean, I think it's great to have design standards, which kept Kingsburg special in regards to growth and so forth. But what we've encountered as planning commission in the past is that developers have come in with a plan and they've already been approved and so forth. And then we start asking questions, how come, just little things like how come the sidewalks aren't landscaped like the previous, phase? This phase doesn't have the same thing the first phase had. And my question is, where in the process of that being approved and being presented to the city, where is that looked at to make sure it's consistent with what's been going on in that area and make sure everything's, compliant in regards to not so much a standard, but someone's gone above and beyond what the standard was to make it look better. And then the next phase comes back in and minimizes that, where do we see the change in that?
At this point, when projects come to us, it's a site plan review process. And if there's a planned unit development, then you are involved as planning commission to look at that. And it really is up to staff to make sure that you have the context in which to put that project in, to make sure that, like you say, it's compatible with the uses alongside of it as much as possible, that is. The argument sometimes from that developer might be, well, I wasn't in charge of what happened, adjacent to me, so why are you making me do this, this extra work? But that is within our authority to do. I think having these objective standards, as detailed as they are, will serve as a clearer message, not only to staff but also to folks that are coming in with projects that you'll be required to meet. And if you don't meet all these, it's a resubmittal, because this is, we have the authority now to ask for this. People have pushed back over time with some of the design guidelines saying, well, how, why did you make them do that, not me do it, and all this. And this clears a little bit of that up, I think, to have something like this in place too. So
Okay.
does that help
Yeah.
answer your question a little bit?
Any other comments? I have some comments. I think it's a great point that Robert brings up about continuity. And I'd like to see that included if there's a way to be objective about that. Because I would hate to see, knowing some of the areas that are, multifamily as of this last housing element update. I would hate to see in that neighborhood something that doesn't fit, style wise with the existing neighborhood. And I imagine, as we know, there's no public here tonight, but they'll be here at the last minute when a project is approved. And we want to prevent that and provide staff, the kind of the power to say, no, this needs, to your point, right? Hey, well, why do I have to do what was done before? Well, we have this continuity objective standard that's going to, you need to finish off the neighborhood. Modern style on the other side of the highway in the business park, if they want to do I think that fits over there. I think that's just better planning, in my opinion, and what the community would appreciate. So that's the only reason I would say. I mean, to me, the more standards. This is one of my issues with another question I have is this will supersede the North Kingsburg specific plan. Because one of my issues with North Kingsburg specific plan was not having enough objective standards that could, provide staff to say, hey, it needs to look like this, or it needs to be like this, where I think that developer comes in and there's enough leeway to say, well, that's too expensive, or I don't want to do that, and because that doesn't match my models that I've done somewhere else, right? We don't want it to look just like some subdivision that exists somewhere else, not have, a Kingsburg appeal to it. So
One of the things that we're allowed to do is put objective standards in with subdivisions too, and we haven't really looked at that yet. I mean, there's an interesting tension between the North Kingsburg specific plan, which was very prescriptive at the time and yet general,
And
it was ambitious,
Yeah.
for the time, but, I think for this serves as, a firm, and clear guide for projects that could come in
Multifamily.
without
I mean, if
any.
it's ordinance, it'll apply wherever.
It, well, it would, yeah, it would, but there are also, there's some overlay involved too. For instance, in the form-based code area, there would be some overlay there.
Mhm.
So,
I guess I'm
some of
saying
this needs to be worked out a little
North
bit.
Kingsburg specific plan talks about, multifamily projects. We create these standards, they will apply to projects done in that area as well.
I think, I will get back with you on that. I
Okay.
think that's, I think for the purposes of this conversation, this is mainly for, the by right projects that we have no control over
Okay.
at this time. And
Sure.
this will serve as,
Well, and that,
whether or not-
template, and maybe it's something we can adopt,
perhaps.
because I mean,
something
I think
that's-
these are the types of projects that get the most scrutiny by the public
that's true.
at the last minute. And I think it's better for the developer as well to say, this is the standard. It provides us a way to say, well, they did everything that we asked them to do. This is a quality project, especially when it comes to affordable housing. Those are usually these large quasi-governmental agencies that are coming through with those projects. They put a high level of, I mean, they're building a high level project generally from what I've seen. And they're usually willing to meet our standards, whatever they are. So we might as well make them exactly what we want, spell it out up front, and then those projects will come through when they do. And we won't get projects that don't meet standards or that the community wants. So,
Yeah, I know this is opening up a much larger conversation about, design and
yeah,
Swedish yes, Swedish no, where it is, who decides what is Swedish or what is modern or what is all
Sure.
this. And I'm here, and with the goal of at least, putting this as a doorstop in case some projects
Yeah.
are coming in with absolutely, no intention, of considering what Kingsburg might want or what
Mhm.
Kingsburg used to do. They will have their by right,
Mhm.
authority. Whether that is a serious concern or not, who knows? It's not
Won't be
been done a
until
lot yet,
until it
but
comes.
we don't want to be the first one.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think I'm all for this. I would say kind of what Robert mentioned, I agree with, is if to me, there's an objective way to say it has to have some continuity with the existing neighborhood. These are specifically infill projects. You put up a extremely modern project in the middle of houses that have kind of been built to the standard of the Swedish theme, or more of your suburban look. I think that people, I mean, personally, I would think that that doesn't fit the neighborhood and wouldn't want that. So, yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
Thank you.
That's all that I have.
May I understand this correctly? The object. The object of this discussion of this draft multifamily objective standard design is specific to multifamily design at this point in time.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
We can bring back for you, I think probably we should bring back for you in May, some thoughts about subdivision standards and about, and I'm going to need to research that a little bit because we have existing and we have the North Kingsburg specific plan to keep in mind, and lots of things that work for us, but perhaps to put something a little more concrete down for an objective standard for a for subdivisions. And this included single family too. And the reality is Kingsburg's never really done any design standards for single family. And so perhaps that's something that we can take up, we can consider, or we can take a pass on. I would like to have a conversation about ADUs in single-family residential contexts that would meet the ADU requirements and law, but still give us some flexibility as to, roofing materials or, where windows are located, or, there's a number of design elements that we might want to consider for ADUs going forward, keeping in mind that we had a grand total of 1 built last year. So it's not like San Diego where they had, I don't know, 2,000 or something. But something to keep in mind too.
I, did you have another comment?
No,
Yeah, I think the more that we can do, that, because we'll hear about it in the end. And and then we feel a little powerless, to kind of prevent something that, upsets the public. So to me, just laying it out up front, I think the developers will appreciate it as well, because then they're not gonna, if that's not what they want to build, they're not gonna waste their time going through the process and then delays up here because, we're kind of doing those design standards up here versus the standards are there, they know what to meet, and then it's a lot easier process coming through here, and we don't see things that we don't care for.
Yeah, I think there was a previous project that took a number of meetings, for instance, and was never actually constructed, but it took, there was a lot of time on staff's part as well as planning commission's part to talk about that multifamily project, and that would have shortened that process by quite a bit, I think, if that was outlined in the beginning. So.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Is our suggested action to adopt this or recommend this to council for adoption?
It is Carol, can you clear it up for me here? Yes. Yes. Well, we haven't actually, we have a resolution, and that is to recommend to council the review and
Yeah.
adoption of that. So.
Before, I would just like us to bring it, just bring it back one more time.
Yeah.
Not waste any time on it, but specifically narrow the scope of the addition here, because I like all these standards, to just that continuity. If we can put something in like that, bring back, and if we can't find something, then we can adopt this, but.
Hey,
to me-
with that recommendation, yes, that,
Yeah.
okay, so we will reflect that in the, in your comments. It's not in the, I think the resolution's pretty general here that you have in your packet. Oh, there isn't? Oh.
Yeah,
Resolution.
I would just like us bring it
But I'm
back
wrong.
next time. Let's see if we can get that language in there.
And I don't think it needs frankly, was a workshopping, this
Yeah.
was a review, and then bringing it to council for their review. And then, they can, adopt that at that time. If you feel like you want to see that come back to you next month, then we can do it that way too. So.
Yeah, I would like to have it with specifically.
You would like to have
specifically
that
just
back?
continuity piece.
Okay. I will have a conversation then with probably with the consultants about that. And with the city attorney to make sure that I've got the verbiage
Yeah.
that is, that protects us, but meets the intent of that too. So.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so no action.
No action.
That's-
Sorry, I was wrong. I thought there's a resolution. I got ahead of myself. So,
Hey,
thank
it's all
you.
right. Trying to be efficient. Okay. Next item, future agenda items. I guess maybe,
Would it be appropriate for me to just let you know and thank you for the time of service? But this will be my last planning commission meeting. I have served the city of Kingsburg for a number of years, I started out serving on the planning commission and I'm ending serving on the planning commission.
Bruce, how long has it been since you've served the city? I'm just curious.
Um,
Do you remember?
25, 26 years, 27 years. I
Okay.
can't remember. I'm old.
Long time.
Long time.
Long time.
You're leaving Kingsburg, or just not-
No,
You're still here, or?
I've got other fish to fry and am doing other things. And rather, I'm seeing that the planning commission has things well in hand over time. It's not been necessary to go ahead and make a lot of changes to things because as time has gone along, the process has evolved and it's given the developers more knowledge about what we're looking for. It's also gone ahead and make it easier for staff to go ahead and hold the developers' feet to the fire so that now planning commission doesn't have to go ahead and rework every subdivision that comes in. And as such, my work is done. I fought the good fight. I went ahead and I was part of the North Kingsburg specific plan, all that stuff. You know, you don't need me anymore.
There's the wisdom, man. And thank you for.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Anyway, but it's been a fun ride.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Blaney. We're going to miss you. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You're a seasoned voice and
Mhm.
a rational,
Paul
rational
has been
person.
around longer than I, so you'll still have Paul, I'm sure, to go ahead and listen to.
No, well, that threw me off a bit. No,
about
future
that.
agenda items, I guess. I guess maybe if you want to bring back the ADU, I don't know if you've got enough time to.
I would like to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be good to move ahead as,
Yeah.
you know, to get this finalized and then on its way to council
Yeah.
sooner rather than later. And it's been, it's been a long time coming. I mean, frankly, it wasn't entirely clear what objective standards were
Mhm.
for all us planners. We had workshops on it and, how deep can you go on this? And, some people have 1 page and some people have 26 pages.
Sure.
It just depends on staff time and, desire of the community to really dive deeply into this and the willingness to update it over time too. What is good now might be pretty dated in 8 to 10 years. So
Sure. Do you think you can bring the ADU one back? Is
Yeah.
that enough time?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would think it's almost the same question there. The continuity of the ADU to the existing residents, right? Kind of similar item.
I
So,
think that would be more streamlined. Your template, it's sitting right there, you're gonna build one that's gonna complement that. You don't have to come out with some different design
Hopefully
Yeah.
not, no.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is you can do, we have pre-approved plans.
Yeah.
People can use them. It streamlines their process. But if they have a dream about some other look, it would be a good idea to have something that allows for flexibility, but also takes into consideration, the primary structure, where it's sited on the lot. Again, is it 1 story? Is it 2 story? What, where's the window placement? A few things like that I think would be useful to have.
5 months.
3.
They can do what they want with those 3 models and change the dynamic look of it. Pretty nice.
Yes, that was thanks to AJ. He did a lot of work on that. So,
okay. Then with that, we'll adjourn. Do I need to
Thank
hit
you.
this every time?